We Love Katamari is one of the greatest sequels ever made. It takes every complaint I had about the original game, fixes them, and retains everything that made the first game great. It took me a long time to get to this one, but I'm so glad I finally played it. In this video, we are going to be delving into the incredibly fun gameplay of We Love Katamari, and discussing in depth why I think it's such an amazing sequel. Also, I'll get into the soundtrack, the artwork, and lastly, we'll discuss how this game is accessible to modern players. Now, if you've paid attention to my channel for a while, you might be thinking, didn't you already cover this game? And yes, you're correct. However, I want to elaborate on that a bit. The video that I originally made for this game was the first one that I made after buying the Adobe Suite. I was so excited to have all these additional tools to work with in Premiere compared to my old editing software, and I did a little too much, I think. The overall content of the video is still really solid, and I'm happy with a lot of it. However, there's a bunch of these little extra skits that just didn't make a whole lot of sense and ultimately detracted heavily from the video. It just ended up kind of weird, and I was never all that happy with it. The video, of course, performed horribly then. However, these edits are not strictly about views. I still have plenty of other videos like my Snow Bros one or Mega Man 7 that have performed really poorly, but overall I'm happy with them and so they're staying. We Love Katamari has always been the elephant in the room for me. It's a video that not only performed horribly, but that I was also not happy with. I'm glad that I finally got around to tweaking it to better fit this channel. Now, this video is not one where I did the historical risk graphics and such. I was still under the name VG Reader for this video even, so I will be adding in a little section on the historical risk and doing those graphics and things. I'm not going to redo all my old videos just to include them, but one day I would like to cover the concept of historical risk for them in some way. But don't worry, I'll be leaving all my other old videos as is. I still really do like the Mega Man 5, Mega Man 2, X3 videos. Also, this video was done with my old microphone. I attempted to do some tweaks to the audio to make it sound a little better, but there's only so much I can do. It's still okay, but just understand that this video was before I made a lot of upgrades to things. So if you haven't seen this one before, which you probably did not, get ready to delve into one of my favorite game sequels ever. I have always wanted to play the sequel to Katamari Damacy, and I finally have a chance here to explore this magnificent game. I don't know why it took me so long to get this, but here we are. If you cannot already tell, they did not hold back with this one, just like the first, in terms of its artwork and craziness. We have the return of all the spectacular, wacky, and colorful artwork, along with the jazzy soundtrack and the same smooth controls. In my last video, which you should watch if you have not, I gave a few minor complaints about Katamari Damacy, and basically my entire wishlist was granted with We Love Katamari. I am glad I knew basically nothing about this game when making the first video, since I was so genuinely pleased when I played We Love Katamari. Oftentimes I would find myself going, oh look, they addressed that issue that I talked about in the first video. Truly, this game is nearly a perfect sequel. My list of complaints start with not finding much usage for the flip and the dash special moves in the first game. We Love's level design has much more thought given to these special moves. I find places to safely dash and the need to flip around much more here. Dashing is actually fun in this game, unlike in the first, where it is often a suicide mission. Also, I feel like you move really slowly when going backwards compared to the first game, thus making the flip way more necessary because you want to be in back of the ball the whole time. Next, we have the interruptions. Katamari Damacy interrupts your gameplay unnecessarily way too often. For the most part, that was corrected in We Love Katamari. The king still has to tell you when you can go to a new area, and that's alright, I guess. But for some reason, it takes him a while to load in this game now. I mean, I don't get why we have to, spend this time loading in a remaster of a game from 2005. Could they really not get that just instantly? Whatever. It's not necessarily my field of knowledge, so I can't really criticize that. I don't know, so I guess we'll have to just live with it. The frequency of interruptions just feels a lot less, though. And as somebody who just wants to roll around and does not really care about the story, I do love, of course, still being able to skip a lot of the dialogue with the plus or the start button. Where this game really shines, though, are in the missions, not just about getting the Katamari big. There's way more variety in We Love than in the first game. The new innovative levels are extremely fun to play. The game focuses more on how we roll instead of what we roll up compared to the first game. I really enjoyed the flower level and the firefly level. Both are so appealing to look at and really encourage you to do a lot of charging around and moving quickly. Also, the most hilarious of these kind of side levels is when you have to roll up the sumo wrestler and help him get swole. Instead of just rolling up the foods in the Katamari, we now are the sumo wrestler. It's very amusing. If I had to make one complaint about this game, it's that they decided to keep the roll up the biggest bear mission, which I think is so stupid from the last game. Again, same as last time, just slam into the first bear and move on. My favorite part of the game, though, is right here when you open this bathroom stall. There are not many times where games actually make me laugh out loud, but I really did crack up the first time I saw this. Probably the most challenging level in this game is the one where you don't let the flame die out! You have to go pretty quickly here, and it can be really nerve-wracking to watch that little flame dwindle down. This series needs levels like the ones I've mentioned here to keep it fresh. We are down to just 5 levels called As Big As Possible instead of the 10 Make a Star levels from the first game, which were essentially the same thing. Also, you can replay the As Big As Possible stages and then they become As Fast As Possible, thus adding even more variety to the gameplay. Overall, this game still feels pretty easy, just like the first one. Maybe that's just because I'm pretty seasoned with the series at this point, but I don't really struggle to complete pretty much any of the levels. I'm completely okay with this game being on the easier side. Although I may be able to clear missions quickly, I will note that this game still does require a great deal of focus. It's one of those flow state kind of games and does an amazing job at making you only see the screen in front of you. Everything else just melts away while playing We Love Katamari, and that's what makes it so addicting. The levels are also really digestible. None of them are particularly long. Even the final As Big As Possible stage has a pretty short time limit, all things considered. I'll note that it's significantly shorter than the timer on Make the Moon from Katamari Damacy, although you end up getting way bigger in this level. The side missions also have quick time limits and they do not overstay their welcome. I will also note that the footage you are seeing is my second playthrough of the game, and I barely took any time off in between my initial run and now. Very, very rarely does it ever happen where I immediately want to replay a game after finishing it. Granted, this game is still relatively short. It's definitely not any kind of RPG length or anything like that. However, I would say that even after I finish like a Mario or a Mega Man game, I'm not dying to immediately replay it. So there is something to be said that I just wanted to go right back in and record my gameplay for We Love Katamari. Both playthroughs were extremely fun for me, and part of that fun is found in listening to this game's zany soundtrack. They definitely continued with the same style from the first game. However, I would say that We Love's soundtrack is even weirder. Let's compare the songs they play when you are in the tutorials. The second one sounds like something you would hear when starting a New Game Plus file for a game, not just any old song right off the bat. I would still say I prefer most of the songs from Katamari Damacy over this soundtrack, but We Love's soundtrack has grown on me over time, and especially in the course of making this video. Most of the songs feel like they're pushing for this kind of smaller scale. Listen to how things have this quieter kind of hushed tone about them, whereas the first game had a lot of very grand feeling, energetic, and exciting music. The atmosphere created by We Love's soundtrack fits the premise of the game more, and it makes it feel more like we were playing with toys this whole time. Even though the final level lets you get way bigger in this game compared to the first, the scale of the entire game and the art style and everything just feels a little more intimate in We Love Katamari. The sound effects are also hushed and have this kind of filter on them. I don't really know how to explain it without just playing you some of the audio from the game, so just listen to how things sound when you pick them up. The first game seems to have a little more of an echo to things that was suppressed than in We Love Katamari. My favorite track in the game is called, I believe, Bluffing Spirit, and the ability to toggle it on whenever I want in any level is another amazing feature in this game. You can play whatever song you want in any stage. Sure, it means I stop listening to some of the other tracks in the game, but with the music covering a really wide range of sounds, I think it's great not to force certain tracks on players. Bluffing Spirit definitely captures that calmer feeling that this game has compared to Katamari Damacy. Sure, the first one had some slower jazzy tracks, but none quite like this song. That flute part is so catchy. And yes, of course, I cannot go without mentioning the hilarious dog barking song. Yes, they took the main theme from the first game and did a version with dogs barking. Hearing this song for the first time definitely made me chuckle to myself. It's a funny inclusion and further proves that this game doesn't really take itself too seriously all the time. The idea of this game being calmer and a little more intimate is also shown in the plaza area. Instead of traversing these huge planets just as the prince, now we have this fun little area to hang out in and help out our fans. This game just feels a lot cozier than the first one. I do love this direction for the series. One of the best features is that when you hold R1 in the plaza and run, this happens. One of my final complaints about Katamari Damacy was that the artwork lacked variety as the stages went on. I excused it because of the low budget. Now that we are here in a sequel, starting to create a franchise obviously, this issue has been remedied. The final level actually has you going around the Earth. You can see the Statue of Liberty, Paris, Stonehenge, and Egypt, just to name a few examples. I don't see Arizona anywhere here, so I think I'm safe. Perhaps it's just the remaster, but this game looks so polished. It does look like a little more care went into the graphics than for Katamari Damacy. Albeit, both games look really nice in the remasters, and even the PS2 versions still look pretty decent. However, We Love Katamari just seems to have gotten a little more, well, love if you catch my drift. Another clear indicator that this game is more intimate and cutesier than the first one is in the physical artwork. So let's take a quick look at how that's conveyed in the case and manual. Stadium and all this cool stuff that you can roll up. Whereas this one we have a cute little house and our little cousins. The front and back cover, and I believe the first one did this too, where it kind of continues onto the back cover. Really nice. We have some nonsense getting started. Here's where it really comes up, where it really starts to be awesome. Long live the king of all cosmos, and he has a little king plushie there. This is what I really love. The next 15 pages or so they look like a children's book, and it's so cool. It's adorable, and it's just very unique. So let's get rolling, and it shows you how to roll it to the side, roll it backwards. And we see here just some more excellent art. Everyone gets along when you roll the Katamari like this, even the boogeyman. He's getting along there. Really great. The guy, Kaito Takahashi, who created the first game, he didn't even want a sequel to be made, but Namco told him, we're going to do it anyway. And he was only involved in this sequel and none of the other ones, to my knowledge. And, he didn't like the way that sequels put a lot of pressure on people in the industry. And, it's kind of ironic because there's so many Katamari games now. But he agreed to do this one, but wanted to focus on the fan service aspect of it. And, that's why it's all about fans of Katamari and everything. So you can tell they really put a lot of love into this. Of course, we have the fantastic remaster of We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie. Much like how this is a perfect sequel, it also received a near-perfect remaster job. We get spruced up graphics and overall presentation plus some new content. It's everything you could want in a remaster, and hopefully it stays available on Steam for years to come to create an incredibly easy way to access We Love Katamari. So overall, because of that, We Love Katamari has very low historical risk. This is an incredibly easily accessible remaster that should be available and playable for years to come. It's also just a popular franchise in general. So sure, this one is not as popular as the first, but I still believe it will be remembered for generations to come. I will admit, it is pretty hard for me to find any real negatives about We Love Katamari. There are a few minor things here and there, however, as I mentioned, pretty much the entire wishlist that I had from the first game was answered here, and then some. This game is about as pristine as you can get for an entry in the Katamari series. I will likely have to refine my list of favorite games to include We Love Katamari instead of Katamari Damacy in the top 10, if I were to limit myself to just one per series. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it and tell the algorithm that this is a good video. Also, be sure to check out my other videos, including my review of Katamari Damacy right here. Lastly, please subscribe, as we are so close to hitting that goal of 1,000 subscribers. Thanks for watching.